Welcome to the BeastNet.
Whoa, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Things are just crazy right now.
Yeah, know that feeling.
Yeah.
Know that feeling. Oh, so we'll just jump into it like we always do. So, I mean, how you been? I know we did, since last we talked, there's been a lot going on. We did the OCR World or National Championships, which was an adventure.
That is the best way to explain it. That was an adventure.
It was an adventure. I mean, an adventure we got to do together. Wasn't planned that way, but it worked out that way.
Hey, I think all things considered, like we got pretty lucky for how things all worked out.
We did. So for those listeners that don't know, the whole thing started was my plane was delayed slightly, but not much. I got into Atlanta at 10:30-ish. Got to the rental car and they were out. No rental cars. So I saw Megan was coming behind me and I was like, "Oh, hey, Alamo's out of cars. Hopefully you got one somewhere else and they still have them." So luckily, when you got there, Thrifty, well, at first your car wasn't there, which made it even funner. At 2:30 in the morning, by the way, because your plane was delayed, what, 4 hours?
Yeah, a little over 4 hours.
So you got there at like 2:30. We finally probably got everything figured out because they pretty much gave us the last car in the airport.
Pretty much, yeah.
We left at like 3:30 in the morning and just drove straight to the venue.
Well, no, we pit stopped at Buc-ee's.
No, well, we did stop at Buc-ee's, but of course, you can't drive by Buc-ee's.
And
So yeah, we stopped at Buc-ee's.
How lucky were we to drive past a Buc-ee's at 4:45 in the morning?
Yeah, because both of us at that point, either you taking like a nap on the plane. I hadn't slept in since 4:30 the morning before. So
yeah, I got
at
up
that
at
point,
3:45 on Friday morning.
So both of us were like 24 hours in at that point. So we're both like half dead, and we're both like, we need coffee, we need something else. I'm like, oh, there's a Buc-ee's. Yeah, that was a lifesaver. But I mean, it was an adventure. But I mean, the event was fun. I had a blast. I mean, I had so much fun going through because I did both races Saturday. The 5K and the 3K and the 5K Saturday, and then I volunteered all day Sunday. So I had a blast. So
Yeah.
what did you think of it? I mean, there's obviously like we knew going into it that being the first year there was going to be some things that that are going to have to be looked at for next year, but Midnight's having fun.
Oh yeah, Midnight's having so much fun right now.
Hi, Midnight.
She is being such a menace. Thank you, baby girl. Love.
Oh, she's a cute menace.
She's such a cute menace, but she is a husky that she is. So she is destructive. So I'm trying to stop her from being destructive while also trying to record. And that is quite a challenge. Right, Midnight? Right. Yep. There we go. So yeah, I thought all things considered, the race weekend went very well.
Yeah.
So we talked about it before. So I am the head of the development committee for USA OCR. Mm-hmm. So my committee is responsible for technical officials. So it is our job to train technical officials. And with where we are at currently in the U.S., you okay, Midnight? She's barking at a vacuum. That's not even going off.
Vacuums are scary.
Vacuums are scary. Midnight. Very scary. You don't like vacuums. Apologies.
Well, it's okay.
Didn't realize that this was going to be such a challenge to me.
It makes it fun.
So much fun. Okay, so my committee, the development committee, is responsible for technical officials. So with where we are at in the United States, we have not held any races that operate under World Obstacle rules. So World Obstacle implements a band system. So for those, the best way I could put this is if you were to take Spartan, how they have their mandatory completion obstacles and their single attempt obstacles, mandatory attempt, you got to do it. If you don't do it, then you're disqualified or you are a non-complete. You can still collect your medal, but you do not get a time. So like for all intents and purposes, your race doesn't count towards anything. And then you have the single attempt that if you fail it in Spartan, you would go to your penalty. Well, in the band system, you are given 3 bands, wristbands, and you lose a band for every failed single attempt obstacle, or you lose all 3 for mandatory completion.
Yes.
If during the course of the race, you lose all 3 bands, you are a non-complete. You can go collect a medal, but you don't get a finishing time. If you lose 1 or 2 bands, instead of doing a penalty right there, you have a penalty loop at the end to earn back your band. So you come into the final obstacle, you are missing 1 of your 3 bands, you go to your penalty loop, you cross the finish line. If you are racing head-to-head with somebody, you might not know how many bands they have. So you could be racing somebody and they are without 2 of their bands. And if they fail this last obstacle, oh boy, their race is over. Or, you know, you could have failed 2 obstacles. Your race might be over, but the person next to you, you don't know where they're at. If you beat them through that, you still have to do your 2 penalty loops. Or, you know, they might do less penalty loops. They might do more. You just kind of got to run your own race and see where you fall at the end of it. And it was very thrilling. If you go back and watch the OCR report's coverage of the 2 races, a lot of the races were changed based on that band system. We had, for the women in the first race, no woman came through with all 3 bands. Everybody had to do at least 1 penalty loop. So one of the women that was actually coming through in the top 3, she had lost 2 bands coming into the last obstacle, and then she failed the last obstacle, and it turns out that her race was done. She was a non-complete, and she was running in the top 3. But then, you know, the men and the women, they were all of their podiums were decided based around how many penalty loops they all had to do, or if they didn't have to do them. I think one of the top 3 guys in the 15K ended up needing to do a penalty loop and got bumped out. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But needless to say, the penalty system and like the band system definitely affected the race results. So for us here in the US, we have never implemented that before. So we couldn't have technical officials from the US in like Costa Rica or wherever else under the quote unquote cross country OCR because we've never done this before. Now they adjusted some of the rules to make sure that the US still had technical officials in Costa Rica this year, but moving forward, they want only cross-country OCR, meaning the people running the trail races with obstacles. They want those technical officials to go out to the FISA World Championships. And if we don't have a level 2, a level 3 technical official, we can't have anybody there, and we are supposed to send them there. So the only way we can get technical officials certified to be able to send them to the World Championships is to have technical officials get certified. And to do that, they have to work at our national championships. So I rushed through my level 2 training to make sure that I was on site and served as the technical official, like the chief technical official for national championships. And then we had volunteers like yourself who operated at an obstacle as a technical official following world obstacle rules. And as a whole, I heard zero negative remarks about the band system, about officiating. And as somebody who's been in the sport a hell of a long time, I have never seen a race where there wasn't a complaint about officiating.
No, because I mean, it was cut and dry. There was there's no gray area to it. It's cut and dry. Like I did low hang. Low hang was pretty much, you started with your feet on one side of a line, you went across, your feet did not touch the ground in a way to help you. And then you put your feet on the other side of the line. Pretty cut and dry. I mean, the only thing was, I mean, you know, you could have incidental, like your foot scraped across the ground. That was about it. But other than that, if you help yourself or your butt touch the ground or whatever, you're done. And I took your band. So, I mean, there's no judgment call. There's nothing on my side where it was like, oh, well, this could have. It was just like, either you made it or you didn't.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing, because, I mean, for me, you had me go through, there's a whole video training program that I had to go through. I think it was 45 minutes, hour long, that I watched to understand what the rules were, what I was supposed to follow, everything else, no coaching, no anything. So there was a training. There was something rather than just, hey, your obstacles out there, have fun.
Yeah.
Figure it out, which is pretty much how it is in most other races that I've been to. It's just like, hey, so you get there and they, you know, how many times have you been to an obstacle with, you know, one of the other brands, and the volunteer that's the official there has no idea?
Oh, way too many things to count.
Where you're sitting there telling them, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, I did Dallas over the weekend and doing the, you know, the Herc hoist. Just multiple people dropping. And you're like, you're not supposed, it's in, set it down easy. Oh, I didn't know that. It's like, well, the volunteer should be telling you this. You know, and that was the one thing I made sure every time someone came up, this is exactly what it is. This is what you have to do. You know, you can't touch the frame. You can't touch the ropes. Your feet can touch the, you know, the bar and touch the rings. Don't let your feet touch the ground. Made sure every athlete knew exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. And like, it's not that hard to tell the volunteers, hey, here are the basic rules for your obstacle. Here are the basic rules. If somebody violates rules, it's a fail. Like, I've marshaled at a Spartan race before, and you know, I know what the rules are. I saw a woman once at the multi-ricket killings, and she got up onto the box, she grabbed the ring, and she swung out on the first ring, and immediately came right back to the step and said, no, I don't like this lane. I said, sorry, that's your attempt. You get one attempt. When your feet leave that box, that is your attempt. And she didn't fight me on it. She was like, you know, that's the rule. Thank you for upholding the rule. At the end of the day, people don't hate when you uphold the rules. No. They hate getting caught, but at the end of the day, if you know the rules, they're not going to fight you on it unless they're just, you know.
Unless, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be that guy who's like, no, that's wrong. No, I didn't do that. But ultimately, nobody likes getting caught cheating.
No,
or not even cheating. Like, oops, something happened. But if it's a silly mistake, they're going to say, haha, yeah, you caught me. You're right.
Yeah. You know, I'll be honest, on the one that I did, I mean, there was a couple that did multiple attempts, but it was one of those, you failed the first attempt, so I'm taking your band. If you want to try again to see if you can do it, cool. But I'm still taking your you know, your bracelet.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of athletes did say they would prefer to be able to multiple attempt, because a lot of those obstacles they'd never seen before. Yeah. And we have been brainstorming like, okay, what can we do within the realm of the band system to allow that? And, you know, we don't have anything that we can report of as of yet from USA OCR, but like, we do recognize that, and we want to find a way to make the band system work. Because again, a lot of people actually found it to be a very well run race and a very fair judgment for a race.
It did, and I mean that was one thing I like the band system, because we've had this conversation before about the that you have to complete, you have to do whatever. I like the idea of that, because a lot of times the way, even with some of the races that have gone to the burpees or now the penalty loops or whatever, um, it it favors the fast runner, because they can just be like, I know I can't do this obstacle, so I'm just gonna skip it. I'm just gonna touch the obstacle, go run the penalty loop, and then take off. And it favors that fast runner. Where if you have the band system, you have 3 bands. So you can only, I mean, I get you can do that if you want to, but you have 3 chances to do that. The third time you do that, you're done. Your race is over. And once you get to the end, you have to do as many laps as whatever obstacles you skipped. And it puts yourself in a hole. If all of a sudden you're like, I know I can't do this obstacle, so I'm just going to skip it. Now you've lost a band. Now you do that a second time. Now the third one, you have to make sure you do everything. And I think that's one of the things. I mean, it gives you that accountability. And with Spartan, you could do, and we just know Spartans, and I'm not really trying to pick on them, but just in that, I could skip every obstacle pretty much, except for the few that are, you have to do, like bucket carry, sandbag. Those ones, I could skip every other obstacle and just do the penalty loops and still finish with the time.
Exactly. And I would always equate this to Spartan, because Spartan already has it set up the way to implement the band system. They just don't right now. They have their single attempt, they have their mandatory attempt obstacles. Now, all they would have to do is say, here are 3 bands, and then it's changing the entire dynamic of their race for the better. Think back to, the Tahoe days with world championships, where none of the men could flip the tire. The spear throw was still, I mean, it's always going to be a hit or miss, 50-50, quite literally obstacle. So if, you couldn't flip the tire and you miss your spear throw, then you have to slow down and say, oh, I cannot miss a single obstacle anymore, because then my race is done. And who knows how that could have completely changed everything. All of those guys, when I say guys, because, there was such a huge disparity between the men's and the women's tire. Most of the women had no problem flipping the women's tire, but that men's tire was so incredibly heavy. More men would have been in the gym deadlifting some serious weight to pick up that tire, because they knew that they could not afford to not hit that tire.
Yeah, because that would be the deciding thing, because most time the spear throw is towards the end.
Yeah.
And if you've already failed the tire, say you fell off the rig, and now all you've got that spear throw left, that spear throw is now your determining factor whether or not you even finish the race.
You would look at Killington of yesteryears, and it went Tarzan swing right into the tire flip. And then you had the spear throw right at the end, and you're like, so many people would fail Tarzan swing and that tire flip. Then they're coming into the spear throw, and it's like, oh, well, you just put in 13 miles of hell, 7,000 feet of elevation gain, running up the death march, only to fail your spear and be out of the race. And it would change the entire dynamic of the sport. It's, yes, still a runner's race, but it's more than just a runner's race now. You still have to obstacle.
Yeah, and you have to be able to do them. Like I said, I mean, that's one thing I would love. I mean, if you only get three fails, I mean, it's, and you really don't even get 3. You get 2 fails. That third fail means you're, third strike, you're done.
Yeah.
You're going to have, like you said, people doing deadlifting, people doing training for more than just a running, because, I mean, how many times could you imagine going through, like you said, 13 miles of hell, you're in second place, you've got it, but you failed 2 obstacles, you're going to have to do 2 loops. and you miss the spear while you're looking at that final penalty loop in the finish line, and know that your race is done.
I mean, I know we've seen some pretty impressive A-frame flips, mad dash across the finish line, but like seeing people race to the spear throw and not think before throwing it because, they're thinking about the finish line, and next thing you know, their spear falls out. Or, it hits, but that tail hits the ground. Or, God forbid, they just miss it altogether, and it's like, oh, no. Now my race is done. It's going to make people stop and think. And, that's exactly what happened in the 15K with the women's race. That same woman who had ended up losing all 3 bands right at that last obstacle, she came into the final obstacle in first place. She had a huge lead, and she had 2 bands missing, and she knew I failed this yesterday. She stopped. She caught her breath, she shook out her hands, and she gave it a solid attempt. She did not run that obstacle at all. And then she got into that penalty loop. She saw the next women coming, and she didn't know what their band system situation looked like. So she ran those penalty loops. And like, you think about it, Spartan is already creating a penalty loop. They are doing that stupid extra mile at the end of the race. That is a penalty loop.
It's right there.
It's right there at, Killington. It's up and down a mountain. That is a great penalty loop to say, hey, go do it. You have 2. Go do it.
And could you imagine
Here's a
even
sandbag, go do it.
Yeah, the spectators watching this going, okay, here comes, whoever coming in. Okay, they're in first, but how many bands do they have?
Yeah.
And how many laps are they going to do? Second place is only 20 feet behind them, but how many bands do they have? Where all of a sudden you're in first place and you're like, okay, I have to do 1 penalty loop. You don't know that second place right behind you doesn't have to do any.
Yeah. Rachel on the 15K, she came in and she knew that she was technically in third, but the girl, I think she came in second, but it was like neck and neck with third. And she knew the woman right next to her had failed 2 obstacles. She had only failed 1. So she's like, I'm okay if she maybe passes me a little bit on the rig because I'm going to beat her on the penalty loop.
It becomes a strategy. You watch the people that are around you, like, because a lot of times people don't think about it. It's most time in a race, first, second, and third, they're within view of each other for quite a bit of the race.
Yeah.
So they know, oh, hey, she failed an obstacle. And it's going to make things really a lot closer at the end, because it's like, oh, if you guys are going, you fail the obstacle and the person next to you doesn't, you have to go do the penalty loop right there. So that gives them the advantage to get in front of you. But with this, it makes it a whole different ballgame where all of a sudden, okay, who has what, how many, becomes a whole strategy.
And then who knows, maybe somebody that isn't even in sight of you comes and hasn't failed a single obstacle. And next thing you know, you're on the penalty loop and they come through and they take it. I think the men's 3K, I want to say, there was a couple guys on the penalty loop and somebody that came in they were sitting in 5th, ended up on the podium because, they didn't have to do the penalty loop while other guys did.
Yeah. I like
it. All comes down to strategy. Are you going to just go balls to the wall and get onto that obstacle as fast as you can? Or are you going to give yourself a little bit of time to shake out your hands, to maybe watch somebody else do it, strategize your technique, because you only get 1 shot. And if you don't understand the rules, that technical official could easily say, hey, you just did something you're not supposed to. You need to give me a ban now.
Yeah.
You can't claim ignorance. You can't, say, oh my gosh, I messed up. Can I try again? It's one and done.
And that was one thing. And before the race, it was very clear. And then to the officials, and I officialed mine, but when I did the, 3K and then the 5K the day before, there was officials when they were there, they would explain, hey, this is what you need to do. Here are the rules. Awesome. You're telling me right away. So when I get there, and now if I do something you told me,
Yeah.
you told me what they were. Oh, oop, I didn't do it correctly. Oh, that's on me.
Yeah. And that is well within the realm of a technical official. They can say, here are the rules. It's up to you to listen. After the 3K, we had a situation, and one of the great things about the World Obstacle, and we've adopted it under USA OCR, their rules is, in part, there is a petition system. If you feel like you failed an obstacle that you shouldn't have failed, or if you saw an athlete do something and either, they got penalized or they didn't get penalized and you think you did, you can go and file a petition after the race. And I tell every single technical official, if somebody feels like something wasn't right and they decide to try to fight you on it, tell them, keep moving, deal with it at the end. Find the person at the end. Because no matter what, this is still a race. And we can change your time at the end. But if you spend that time arguing with my technical officials, I'm not going to change that time if it's an argument. And you could be within the realm of unsportsmanlike conduct for fighting with a technical official. They're just doing their job. So fight it at the end. And after the 3K, we did have a situation. And I'm not going to speak about specifics on the athletes, because ultimately the parties involved, they all said, like, hey, thank you for handling this. Like, we completely understand the decision. But it was a situation where one athlete completed the obstacle incorrectly. Another athlete was completing it correctly and ended up falling off the rig and then said something about, oh, well, do I need to do X, Y, and Z? And the technical official clarified, and the athlete was like, well, this other athlete who ended up beating him did not. And when it came down to it, when they were contemplating the filing a petition, they said, well, that athlete beat me by a large amount, so I don't think it's going to change anything. And I said, well, actually, that athlete in question lost 2 bands. And if that obstacle was a failure, their race would have been done. So they wouldn't have won first. And for that athlete, it was a matter of automatically qualifying for Sweden and not. And they said, yep, nope, we're going to petition this. And we went back to the technical official and we got their account of what happened. And the biggest question we asked was, did you inform the athletes of the rules? Did you say what exactly they needed to do? And they clarified and said, yes, I did. This is what I told the athletes as they came in. And we said, okay, then we can't argue that they didn't know. You told them. And then I went to the athlete and I simply just said, can you explain to me how you went through this rig? And the athlete told me. It was like, and they owned up to it. And I said, okay, that's that. And both parties were okay with the ruling. And we were all good. And they thanked us at the end for upholding the rules, because people want the rules to be upheld.
They do. They do. They want the rules to be clear and they want them to be upheld.
Yeah.
And most of the time, and that's one thing that just kills me, I mean, is being in safety, you would be surprised how many times people are just like, oh, I just, brain fart, my bad, thank you for reminding me. People, they want to be able to follow the rules, but sometimes as humans, we just, in the heat of the moment, we make a decision like, hey, I'm going to reach this way, even though I'm not supposed to touch this part of the rig, or I'm not supposed to do that, but it's just natural reaction. They do it. No one said anything. Keep going.
Yeah. It's only illegal if you get caught.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And the people that get mad, they're only mad because they got caught.
Usually.
And, that's why we have the petition system. If it turns out that a volunteer technical official, was wrong, we are going to go and we're going to investigate. We ask witnesses, we ask each athlete in question, we ask the officials, the volunteers who were there. And I didn't just ask the questions, I recorded everything. I got every statement on a video. I got the petitions written out on paper, and we file those away, because even after we rule on the petition, which when you petition a ruling, you have 5 minutes after the race to say, I want to file a petition. And then once you say you want to file a petition, you have 30 minutes to fill out the form. And then we also charge $100 to file the petition. And if you win your petition, you get your money back. And that's to prevent people from saying, oh, so-and-so, didn't ring the bell. Well, are you sure they didn't ring the bell? Or are you just hoping that nobody saw them ring the bell? And, you think you can, if you don't have clear proof, like, we're going to uphold what has already been decided. Like, you're innocent until proven guilty. You got to have proof to prove that what the thing happened that you said happened. So we take $100 and we will give it back to you if it turns out that your petition is valid and you are correct. And that's what happened with this petition during the 3K. And it did stop a lot of people. I mean, I didn't hear any complaints about any other technical officials, but, I'm assuming that people thought long and hard, like, was this worth petitioning? Because they didn't want to have to pay that fee. So, yeah, it's going to stop a lot of people.
Which I like that, too. Because, I mean, you get things, it's like, I've seen it many times where people are like, oh, they didn't ring the bell. Because you didn't hear it because the bell's broken. Right. Or, because of this. Or you want to win, and you're trying to find a way to make it so the person in front of you, like, is disqualified.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think that we upheld everything to the best of our abilities, and we did a really great job with it. We maintained professionalism through and through that entire weekend.
Mm-hmm. No, it was, like I said, I had a blast, and I did not hear any complaints about that. I mean, I thought it went off really well.
Sorry, she's getting into literally everything. Yeah, honestly, I think the technical official side of the race was probably the best part about the race weekend. Like, it was our first national championship under this iteration of USA OCR. We haven't had a national championship in a really long time. So the people involved in this national championship weren't involved in the last one. We don't have any information about the last one. So, of course, there's going to be growing pains. Communication can always improve. A hurricane came through the venue a couple of weeks before. We couldn't get a map. How one of the race brands that showed up had just experienced a hurricane that week and wasn't sure if they were going to be able to make it until Thursday for a Saturday race. So, yeah, we weren't able to have a map. We weren't able to have an obstacle rule book based on every single obstacle that would be there. There's always things that can improve. This was day one, and for us to not have a single issue in how the race was run from a officiating standpoint is phenomenal.
Yeah. It went off really well. I mean, considering, like you said, everything that could have gone wrong, it went off really well. It was a great experience. I see a great future for this. Learning from everything that happened this year, for the next one, which is what, 2026?
Yeah, so we're thinking 2026. Just one of the, I don't even want to say problems we had, because it's not necessarily a problem. We just kind of didn't have enough time to put this all together. So we were fighting with in what time frame can we have this? So October's really late for a championship race. You know, we've already had FISA World Championships. We had OCRWC. It turned out that ended up being the same weekend as the Spartan 100 meter and sprint championships. So like there are all these other championships going on, and we were just thinking we need to have a national championship to qualify people for our 2025 team. And we are trying to put out all of the criteria for 2025. Let's just have a race and get that out and see how it does. And now the people that raced this year, we had some people that auto-qualify for 2025. They still need to fill out an application, but this race is used as a big factor in our application process. And then those people, you know, they're set. They're on their way to applying for the 2025 team to make it to Sweden. So it wouldn't really make sense to have one in 2025 to qualify for them for 2025 because we already have it. And ideally, we want our national championship to be a build-up to world championships. So let's actually put it out and give it more time to marinate and allow more people to sign up, get more exposure, and use it as a feeder into the World Championship season. So we are looking for 2026 with the hopes of it being substantially bigger, with a better time frame in the year and a potentially more central location as well, with a lot more involvement from other small local brands, because we did get a good turnout from other race brands, and we want to see that continue to grow, kind of in the way of OCRWC pre, you know, nuclear race. So like 2017 and prior OCRWC, where they would actually have small race brands bring their obstacles out, and it was truly a world championship event featuring a bunch of obstacles from other race brands. And not to say that they don't do that now, but it doesn't have the same presence that it used to in 2017 and before.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, I think that the national championship will get there. Like I said, I think this was a good foundation to find what's going to work, what needs to be worked with. And I like the idea of the para. I like that para was added into this and that part, because that was a part I was involved in, you know. So helping the para athletes, and it was very interesting because, I mean, most times Spartans, some of the other ones, they have different rules for what you can do with the paras as guides. And I like where this is, it was very, very specific that this is as a guide for the paras. You can do this, and that's it. You know, you can have this many. You have, you know, depending on the level of para, what you can do to help, how many you can have, but they have to attempt and somehow do every obstacle. They just can't, you know, like some brands will say, okay, someone on the team, so one of the guides can do the obstacle for them. But on this, we can't. You have to find a way to get get the person through it.
Yeah, and again, we're trying to operate similar to World Obstacle, and we are trying to really grow the competitive side of para obstacle course racing. And honestly, I wasn't able to see the para athletes out on course because I had to do the officiating thing at the finish line. But watching those para athletes crossing the finish line and asking to see their bands, because part of my job was taking a picture of the athlete with their number and their bands. So if we did have a petition, I can say they finished with all their bands. And here is the proof with their number and their bands. And just seeing the joy on the face of every single para athlete saying, I have my bands. And I'd say, would you like me to cut those bands off? They're like, no, I want to keep these. I want to keep these. They've never had bands before.
Yeah.
It was just so incredible to see.
It was. And it was. I mean, they loved it. And I mean, just even the other athletes. And I mean, that was the other thing, I think, as a the uh, officiating, that was kind of the interesting thing too, is taking the bands. I've never had to do that. Well, all of a sudden you're like, well, I got to take your band.
Yeah, it's wild. You can break somebody's heart with that. But you got to be stern. And like, that's what we need in this sport. I don't know how many times we've ran a race where people have said, oh, well, this volunteer was just sitting on their phone. Oh, they didn't know the rules. Oh, this person cheated and nobody was watching. Oh, there was not even a volunteer there. And it's like, we need people that are stern and that are going to enforce those rules. So at the end of the day, I don't care about somebody's band if it means they're upholding the rules. And like I told all of the technical officials, when in doubt, cut their band. They can file a petition if it means that much to them, and we can reinstate it if it turns out that they shouldn't have lost it. We will get to the bottom of it.
And that's what was kind of neat for me was on one of them. I mean, there was a couple of them where they had, because we talked about it, like on low hang, you could have incidental. And there was a couple athletes that had the incidental where their foot just grazed. And they would look immediately at me and be like, oh, was that, do I have to give you my band now? I'm like, that was an incidental. Your foot just touched, grazed as you were swinging. We're fine. You didn't use it for your advantage. And they're like, okay, but I was surprised at how many of them were like, oh, oops, does this mean, and they were cognizant of the fact that, oh, I might have just lost my band.
Yeah, people are much more aware of, what are the rules and how does this apply to me? And it really makes them think. Again, they're not going to just jump onto an obstacle without knowing what they're doing, because that band plays so much of a role into the race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was.
And I look forward to next year.
Yeah. And anybody who's listening, if you are interested in officiating, if you're listening to this and saying, wow, this sounds so great, we are always looking for more technical officials. We are training people. And yeah, we don't have races right now that offer under the span system. We're working on it. Trust me, I am going to go to Spartan and I'm going to push for this, because they would benefit so greatly from this. And they would make the biggest impact in the sport if they switched to the band system. But races like Hilderbat, they were like, we love this. We're going to do this. There are other races that were like, yeah, this makes so much sense. We can do this.
Yeah. A lot of the smaller brands that I talked to they were like, I love this. This is a great idea.
Yeah. But ultimately, you don't have to work under the band system to become a technical official. To go through your level 1, you just need experience being on a race course, enforcing the rules. So you can go and volunteer at your Spartan races, your Savage races, your local races. You will come find me and I will put you through the training. And then we just need, a safe sport and a background check. And we can get you certified as level 1. And then the next time we have a national championship race, we'll let you know and say, hey, come on out. We are working on hopefully being able to pay officials in the future. And then, you can get the level 2. So then maybe you're going off to FISA World Championships in the future. And they're definitely looking to pay their officials.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would definitely love to. I've done I've volunteered now. I've been an officiant on a.
Yeah, exactly.
And I took the course. I just didn't do the test. I needed to do the test.
Yeah, you got to do the test, and then I will get you what you need to keep moving you through the ranks.
I did safe sport, but it's been like 4 years, so I'd have to redo it.
Yeah, that's fine. And we're working to get a USA OCR account for safe sport. So hopefully soon we'll be able to just put everybody through safe sport.
Yeah, because I did it a while back when there was a big thing in the OCR groups where there was some bad things that happened in a few of the groups. So a lot of the other groups were like, let's do safe sport for everybody that's,
Yeah. It's for the best that anybody who works in sports at this point does safe sport. I think all brands should make their volunteers go through safe sport.
I do too, because it's just better for everybody.
Yes.
It is. It's better for everyone to understand what you should and shouldn't do because common sense isn't real.
Yeah, no, it's not. And, we live in tumultuous times right now. And
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people blurring a lot of lines. And
Yes.
we can't blur lines, particularly in situations involving now youth athletes as well. We had kids as young as 10 out at this race.
Well, and they were tearing it up.
Oh my gosh, they were the fastest ones. It was insane.
I mean, I'd say this in the low hang. Now, one didn't even have to pick up their feet. They just went right through.
Right.
So,
well, that is part of the advantage of being, a 10-year-old.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things I would love to do more of. I mean, it was just seeing everyone, and it's been a long time since I volunteered on an obstacle and just sat there in an obstacle. Because even when I would volunteer a lot for other brands, most of the time I was exit tent. I was, because I was street team or other smaller brands. For whatever reason, I was ended up at the finish line.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever actually been volunteer where I was just sitting in an obstacle the whole day.
Well, I have already been in contact with Savage, with Spartan. I'm going to be reaching out to more brands, or having my committee reach out to more brands. I want to form a partnership with every brand I can and see if we can together have an open chain of communication. So when I have people that are looking to become technical officials, I can send them to the races and say, so-and-so is coming to this race. Can you make sure they are at an obstacle? And they write their name down and say, okay, go fill out all of the volunteer stuff, and I will reach out to you directly and make sure you are at one of our high fail obstacles. Mm-hmm. And then if they have volunteers that are very consistent coming through, they can send them to me, and I can quickly put them through the training and say, hey, look, because you already have all this experience, you just need to take this test and you're good to go. You are a level 1. And then we can say, now all you have to do is officiate at our national championship and you will be level 2. And so on and so forth.
See, and I've already officiated the national championship.
You have. So technically.
So I got to step up.
Yeah. Once you get your level 1, you're a shoo-in to get your level 2 almost immediately.
And there we go. Well, I better hurry up and get my level 1.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And hey, in order to get the level 2, as long as you have your level 1 and, your safe sport and your background checker up to date, then for the level 2, you just have to watch that PowerPoint and you have to take that test. And then I already have all of the stuff that's going to be filled out for your level 2. Here you go, level 2.
Yeah. And so any of the listeners, once again, reach out to Megan if this is something you want to do. I mean, or if you don't know how to reach out to Megan, reach out to me and I'll help you get into contact with her so you can get on the, work towards becoming an official.
Join USAOCR. Come find us over there. Right now, you can join as a member and it doesn't cost you a thing. Just get into our organization and through there, we'll get you more opportunities. And then as we build up more membership stuff, you'll be the first to know about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, then you're working to build this sport, and that's ultimately what we all want, right?
Yeah, because we want it to continue and go on and have more opportunities.
Exactly.
That was one of the biggest problems we had in the Pacific Northwest before I left Washington. We had 2 weekends a year.
Yeah.
Because most of the only 2 brands came out there, so we had 2 weekends a year and then some small local ones that were barely surviving.
Yeah. But now we're trying to build this sport up again, and we're trying to put actual structure into this sport, not just, hey, this race brand is coming here on this day. But, we actually have competitions. We actually have rules. We actually have officiating. You're going to get the same quality across the board as long as it meets USAOCR standards. We can guarantee it's going to have the same set standards then.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is what the sport needs.
It's what the sport needs. We just need everybody to let us come in and work with us. You know, we don't all have to have the exact same rules at the end of the day. We just need to have an understanding of where we want to go with this sport and work together to build it.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing. I think any of the bigger brands, you would think they would be smart enough to go, hey, this is good for this sport, which makes it good for the brand.
Yeah.
You know, but I see certain brands that if it's not their way, they don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. But you'd be
And I
surprised.
think
Some of those brands are slowly turning around.
Yeah, which I think they're starting to see the light.
Or they're starting to see they're starting to suffocate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And as that vice grip is getting tighter and tighter, they're like, we need to work with other people or we're not going to have a future.
Yeah.
And that's sad. We don't want that to happen. So let's all work together so we can open up more avenues, more channels, and get everybody breathing new life into this sport.
Oh yeah, it's like we've talked about before, where it's one of those things. The big brands need the little brands, and the little brands need the big brands.
Yeah.
Because people see the big brands, and like, I want to do that. Oh, but they're not going to be here until for 9 months. But oh, hey, here's this other little one. Let's try this one first.
Yeah.
And then that was great. Oh, now I want to go to the big one.
Yeah.
Or they get scared, because of the pricing of the big one. So they do one of the smaller ones. And they're like, oh, I really do like this. Yeah. So, I mean, they need each other.
Or, God forbid, people only do the big brands and they're like, well, I know all these obstacles and I'm terrified of these little guys because I don't know what to expect. And then they realize, oh, the little guys are actually way better at this than the big guys.
Yeah, they are, because they're more innovative in a way, because the bigger brands have to figure out, how am I going to be able to build this and then move this to the next position, next place, next week.
Well, the little guys also have more heart into it, and not just a larger pocketbook.
Yes. And I agree. It's heart shows a lot. I've had more fun, like in Georgia, doing that for the OCR, national championships, because there was so much heart and there was so much people that were just out there to have fun. It wasn't, it wasn't the big pocketbook just trying to be big.
Yeah.
So, but, hopefully, in 2026, I'll be able to get out there and do it again.
Definitely. I'd tell you a date if I had one, but we don't have anything just yet. I literally...
A date or even a place yet.
Yeah. No, I literally was on a call at 6 p.m. today where we were talking about the national championships and just kind of debriefing. I had to teach my class at the Phoenix at 6:30, so I had to jump off that meeting while it was still happening. And then I taught my class. I rushed home, walked midnight, and here I am now. So we are still talking about what happened over that weekend, and we can't shift our attention to let's plan the next one just yet. But we do have ideas in mind, and we know where we are looking and how we want to continue to improve.
Well, if there's anything I can ever do to help, I'm always here.
We much appreciate it.
Oh. All right. Well, we've spent almost an hour just on that.
I know, right? And we didn't really even talk about our crazy travels.
Oh, no.
It was just oh yeah, you were delayed. I was delayed. I just so happened to have a car. You didn't have a car. I gave you a ride.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we didn't sleep.
Yeah, for like 38 hours.
Yeah. It was
pretty much
way crazier than that, but...
It was. Yeah, 38. Pretty much I know the group that I was with said I was getting kind of delirious towards the end, so...
Yeah. I was asleep by 6 p.m. And then I guess because I slept in a room with 2 other members of USA OCR, and there were bunk beds and then a trundle bed, and I was, of course, in the trundle bed, but I was the first one asleep. They had to climb over me, and I guess when they climbed over me, I started talking about my dog. So,
because midnight's amazing.
midnight is amazing. But also, like, if I feel somebody moving and I'm asleep, I'm just going to assume you're a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though my dog doesn't even sleep in the bed right now, she's still in a crate.
You know, it is what it is.
Yeah. I love her. I'm always thinking about her.
She's amazing.
Even when she is a menace.
Yeah.
She's my menace.
Yeah. I know that one.
She's just looking at me right now. I know she just tore up a bunch of stuff. And she is probably thinking, like, it's almost bedtime and you're going to see that I was just a bad girl and I am playing nice right now because I don't want to be in too much trouble.
It's like, look at me, I'm cute. Please don't yell that much.
Yep, exactly. I promise I'm cute. I'm a good girl. You're just not giving me attention.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
They love the attention.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, is there anything else you want to say to the listeners before we leave?
Come join USA OCR. We are always looking for more volunteers. We have a lot of great things coming up in the future, and the more people we get on board and working towards the mission, the more we can do. So if you have any interest in continuing to grow the sport, come find a committee. We have something for you. We don't ask a lot for your time. Just come help as much as or as little as you can. Any little bit helps.
Yeah. And we'll make sure that there's links to all of that in the show notes so people can find all that. So
Perfect.
right on. Well, thank you as usual. We'll have to have our normal episode here soon.
Yes. The world's toughest mudder episode, because that's less than 3 weeks away, and I will be seeing you in Florida.
You will be. So I will be there. So it's gonna be a fun one. I'm helping an athlete again. So.
Oh, awesome! I'm so happy that you guys found an athlete.
They did find one. So I'm gonna be helping an athlete again. So it'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be a good part of my training. So I just started the heavy training for my triathlon in April. So.
Awesome.
In fact, amazingly, I've dropped 10 pounds in the last 2 weeks.
Congratulations. I can't wait to see you on course.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yes, it is. All right. Okay. So we'll talk soon.
Yep. Have a good night.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.